So after reviewing the Court of Owls storyline in Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo's run of Batman, I wanted to review the following storyline, which is Death of the Family, which is actually a lot shorter. This is actually 5 issues. It ran from issue 13 to issue 17 of Batman in DC's New 52 reboot, whereas the Court of Owls was actually 12 issues long, 12 if you include the sort of epilogue that was at the end. So the Death of the Family was a massive, even though it was only 5 issues long, it was a massive crossover. I think all of the other Bat books were actually involved in this, and as with the Court of Owls storyline, I haven't read the crossover issues because I just couldn't afford to buy all the Bat books while they were coming out, although I probably will pick up the crossover hardback edition, the collected edition that DC are going to be bringing out very shortly. So the run itself starts with issue 13, which actually you get with a special cover here, as you can see the Joker's face, but you pull that back and there's Batman. So up until now, Tony Daniel, while writing Detective Comics, which is a Bat book that runs parallel to Scott Snyder's Batman, he dealt with a storyline where the Joker had his face cut off by a character called the Dollmaker. Now, I have read a little bit of that storyline. I started picking up Detective Comics when the DC New 52 relaunch took place, but I didn't carry on buying Detective Comics because I preferred Batman and I could only really afford one of the two. So I did read a little bit of that storyline though, with the Joker and Dollmaker and whatnot. So I had a sort of working knowledge of what was going on, because this book, issue 13 of Batman, written by Scott Snyder and drawn by Greg Capullo, deals with Gotham. Basically, the Joker's been gone for a year at this point, and it's his return to Gotham to wreak havoc on Batman and everybody else remotely connected to him. What I like about this run, and this is apparent from the first page of issue 13, is that dealing with the Joker for Scott Snyder, we're in horror movie territory. The Joker is the ultimate big bad for Batman. You know, while the Court of Owls and the idea of the Court of Owls may be the sort of natural opposition for Batman, the Joker is his big bad. You know, the Joker is the yin to his yang. So we start off seeing a van looking at Gotham, being started up and driving towards Gotham City, and you know straight away that the Joker's going to be in that van. The imagery in this, as always, the artwork by Greg Capullo, is nothing short of amazing. You look at the expressions on the characters' faces and they are just absolutely fantastic. The introduction of the Joker in this is something that I don't think we've ever really seen before with this take on the character, because essentially we have Commissioner Gordon, as you can see there in the police station, the lights go out, and then he sees the Joker stood in the doorway and he's like, oh god, no, not you. And the Joker then proceeds to, in the pitch black, walk around the police station, killing all the policemen with his bare hands. He breaks their necks while telling jokes, walking around the police station. Now, I do have to say as well, whenever I'm reading the comics, I tend to hear like Mark Hamill's voice doing the Joker. The lettering as well in this book, I don't know how well this is going to show up, but as you can see there, the lettering certainly reflects the sort of unhinged nature and the uneven tones of the Joker's voice. So he walks around the police station, breaking everyone's necks. Needless to say, Batman swoops in, the Joker's already gone, and then Batman then has to sort of come to terms with and try and figure out why the Joker has returned to Gotham. And he's telling, there's a scene where he's telling Damian Wayne and also the rest of the Bat family, look, the Joker's back, you need to sort of look out. The Joker then sends a message to Bruce over the television, and he's actually going to reenact his very early crimes when he was first the Joker, when he'd first become the Joker rather. He's going to reenact those crimes, and Batman, needless to say, has to sort of figure it out and prevent them. So he knows that the Joker's, for example, going to go after the mayor of Gotham, so Batman tries to save the mayor, but not as all as it seems, but I won't spoil that for you. But needless to say, the imagery here, if you look at this guard who's been affected by Joker toxin, that rather than killing you and making you smile, it kills you and makes you frown. So the imagery in this is quite stark and startling, and unlike anything you know, we've really seen in this run so far. It very much centres on the sort of horror movie imagery aspect of the story. There are also epilogues which are drawn by Jock, who worked with Scott Snyder on the Black Mirror, which I haven't read yet, but I purchased that because I love this run of Batman so much. We also get to see characters like Harley Quinn. There's Jock's interpretation of her, which I love. Jock's artwork, you know, it's very stylistic, very angular. I do really enjoy his artwork, and I think it perfectly suits Batman. So that's the first issue. Essentially deals with the Joker coming back and sets the scene and sows the seeds for his plans and what he's going to do. And, you know, it makes Batman turn to his family and say, look, he's back, and whatnot. Then in issue 14, we see Batman escape from a trap set by the Joker. I won't go into how or why, because I don't want to spoil the little sort of intricacies for you, because it is a really fun story to read. Needless to say that Commissioner Gordon is also targeted by the Joker, and this leads to a splash page that I wanted to show off because I think it's such a great image in the run, and the artwork is just so fantastic. Essentially, to set the scene, that Commissioner Gordon has been given some blood thinner by the Joker but doesn't realise, so he starts bleeding from every pore in his body. And you can see here Batman holding him up while he's bleeding, and I just thought that was such a great image. And I actually think that sort of sums up their relationship, their sort of professional relationship, personal relationship that they have. So that was great. We also have a very uneasy conversation between Dick and Batman, because by this stage, at the end of issue 13, without going into the hows and whys, Alfred is kidnapped by the Joker, and it isn't clear whether or not the Joker knows that Batman is Bruce Wayne. So Alfred's kidnapped, and Dick's basically trying to say to him, look, I can't believe he's got Alfred, what are we going to do? And they're talking outside Commissioner Gordon's hospital room, and Batman's talking, you know, in code, like, oh, Alfred Pennyworth, blah, blah, blah. And Dick's just like, for God's sake, Bruce, it's Alfred, you know, don't speak in code, what are you doing? Nobody's here to listen to us. And you can see that it gives a certain insight into Batman's character, in that he definitely uses the idea of Batman as a defense mechanism. It's almost like when he's Batman, he doesn't have to deal with Bruce Wayne's personal life on the same level. He uses the character and the idea of Batman to insulate himself from certain emotions. And it's only, you know, a fairly short scene, but it actually says quite a bit about his character, which I thought was very interesting, because I do subscribe to the idea that with Batman, the duality of the character Bruce Wayne and Batman, that Batman is the dominant real personality and Bruce Wayne is the mask. But that's not to say that, you know, Bruce Wayne doesn't feel things for those around him. Obviously he loves Alfred. Alfred's been his father figure since his parents were murdered, and it's interesting to see him use Batman as an excuse to try and shut out his emotions. So that's really great. And another thing I want to mention is the actual design of the Joker is pretty fantastic, because by this point, as I mentioned at the beginning of the review, he had his face cut off in another run of Detective Comics. And when he killed all the policemen at the beginning of issue 13, he retrieved his face, which he'd left behind in that run. So his face is actually held on by straps and stuff, and as you can see here, it doesn't fit remarkably well. So I love this design of a Joker. It turns him into an almost the boogeyman of the DC universe. He's always been a monster, but now he actually sort of looks... He no longer looks like the clown prince of crime. He looks like the monster that he is on the inside, and I find it very interesting. And what I do like, and what I'll point out later on, is that over the course of the 5 issues, the mask, the skin on his face starts to rot. So the appearance of the Joker changes over the course of the arc, which I thought was really great. You also get to see in the epilogue, drawn by Jock, that Joker is setting in motion his plan and events that will lead to, you know, his ultimate master plan against Batman, and he's recruiting people, very reluctant people like Oswald Cobblepot, as you can see here, to help him out by, you know, threatening methods. You know what the Joker's like. So again, the artwork by Jock, amazing, and I love the fact that these epilogues really do tie into what's happening, and they're like a little snippet in between the main issues, and they are really interesting in their own right. So in issue 15, Batman and the Joker have a confrontation, and the Joker gets away. Now, this issue is actually, it starts with an image of the Joker, which I actually find very haunting here, where Bruce is narrating and basically saying that, you know, you look into somebody's eyes and you can usually see emotion back there and logic, but with the Joker there's nothing, just hatred for everything. He talks about the Joker's pupils not widening or dilating. He says, you know, the Joker is just absolutely chock full of hatred. We then start with the confrontation. Again, the artwork is, in this bit, very cinematic, as you can see here. They're actually stood, I believe, at a reservoir. The Joker manages to get away, though, needless to say. He's always one step ahead. And Batman's injured, so we then see Batman wake up in his bedroom, surrounded by the Bat family. So you've got, you know, the other Robins, you've got Batgirl and whatnot. And that scene is actually a dream. Like I said, I'm going to stay away from major spoilers. There might be a few minor spoilers in here. That scene is a dream, and I wanted to show this off because it just goes to show how haunting the imagery is in this book. He imagines that he sees Alfred, who by this point is kidnapped, walk into the room, and he has actually too had his face cut off by the Joker, and attacks Bruce with an axe. So again, I just love the imagery in these stories. So anyway, needless to say, that, you know, Bruce wakes up for real this time, surrounded by the Bat family. They're all in costume, and I actually found that to be quite an interesting sort of parallel, in that in the dream they wake up as their sort of real people personas, but in reality they wake up and they're all in costume, and it's like, again, you know, the dominant personalities of the suits that they put on. So I found that to be quite an interesting parallel right there. Bruce then goes on to tell a story about an early confrontation with the Joker, and how the Joker has once come close to getting into the Batcave. Now I won't go into the ins and outs of that, but essentially he drops a bombshell on the Bat family, and he says, look, back when I was fighting crime in the early days, there was a time where I saw something that, you know, led me to believe the Joker could have come into the Batcave, but then, you know, Bruce is in denial. He's like, no, he won't have come into the Batcave. You don't know him like I do. You know, what I saw wasn't important, blah, blah, blah. And the Bat family are just like, well, how can you not have told us this? Because doesn't this put all our identities at risk and all the rest of it? I can't believe that you never mentioned that there was an outside chance that the Joker could have gotten into the Batcave. So that was a really interesting conversation, and it really sort of fleshes out the dynamic between the different characters in the Bat family, so I thought that was really interesting. Also, a scene in this that I thought was really interesting as well is that Batman can't get to the Joker. Essentially, the Joker's always one step ahead. He's always insulated from Batman. He can never find him when he wants to, all the rest of it. So he goes after the henchman, which actually helped Joker escape from an earlier scene. And I just think that's a really interesting idea, and I can't remember seeing that in another Batman comic where Batman realises that the henchmen, the people that help the Joker, are the ones to go after, the ones who will lead him to him, essentially. And there's a scene where the henchman's having dinner and Batman just comes through the window like a bat out of hell, and I love that moment in this book. It was great. And needless to say, it turns out that the Joker has plans for Batman at Arkham Asylum, which is, as you know, the mental sort of institution in Gotham City where all the villains, once they're captured, they're sent to Arkham to rot, essentially. So the Joker he's planning something in Arkham Asylum for Batman. So Batman goes to Arkham Asylum. Now, this is a bit where I'm going to try and avoid spoilers as best I can. There is a scene where Batman's walking up to find the Joker, and he walks through the previous villains, his rogues gallery. As you can see, Scarecrow confronts him, and Batman literally just knocks him down. Batman's pissed, basically. Now, the whole idea of this run, which I found very interesting, is the idea that the Joker hates the Bat family. He hates, you know, Batgirl and Nightwing and Robin and all the rest of it. The Joker sees Batman as the king of Gotham. And he sees himself as the king's court gesture. He's there to deliver the bad news, but make the king laugh at the same time. So the Joker sees it as, you know, while I've been gone and over the past few years, you've surrounded yourself by these people who make you weak. You know, the Joker says that these people really, they make you weak. They serve only to, you know, to give you weaknesses. The people who really make you strong are your villains. You know, you have Two-Face, who he says represents the duality of Batman's persona, and the Riddler, who keeps Batman sharp, and all the rest of it. He says the people who make you strong are the people you fight, are the villains of Gotham City, and your Bat family make you weak. They give you something to care about, and they make you weak. So I'm going to take that family away from you. I'm going to destroy the family, and that's why the run is called Death of the Family. All the members of the Bat family are captured and brought together, and the Joker has apparently been whispering in all their ears for however long, turning them against each other. And in the final issue of the run, this is issue 17, I just wanted to show off what I mentioned earlier about the Joker's face rotting over the course of the issue. I just wanted to sort of show that off. Here is the Joker in the final issue, and as you can see, the colour and the quality of the skin is deteriorating. The colour's sort of changed to a more greenish tint. The skin is rotting, and it's an attention to detail that I didn't notice the first time I read this story. I think this is the second time that I've read it, and I do really love this story. I think it's great. And this issue really goes on to essentially deepen and complicate the relationship between Batman and the Joker, and I think the best Batman stories do that. You know, they take the well-established relationship between those two characters, those two titans, and complicates it. Now, essentially, they do that by going into a scene where it's a flashback. Batman, back when he was very early, it was early days, and he'd only just become Batman, he went to visit the Joker in I believe was it in Arkham? It was in some sort of prison anyway. But he goes as Bruce Wayne. He's not dressed as Batman, he goes as Bruce Wayne. And he goes over to the Joker's cell, and you know what I mentioned earlier about that idea that he may have been in the Batcave? Well, needless to say, the Joker left something behind in the Batcave. But you don't know whether or not he actually made it into the Batcave, or whether it floated in through the river, or it was stuck to the Bat boat or whatever. But it was a playing card, and Bruce goes over to the cell. Now, this is a spoiler, so if you don't want to know this, you know, turn off now if you've not not read it, because this is my favourite moment in the run. He goes over to the cell and he says, "Joker, I believe this belongs to you," and puts it against the glass. And you see Joker here in his cell, and you can see Bruce stood behind him. And when Bruce puts the playing card up to the window, you know, the Joker turns and looks, and then just turns away. And that establishes that the Joker, and I think other writers have tackled this in the past, but the Joker doesn't want to know who Batman is. He doesn't care. He doesn't care if Batman's Bruce Wayne. He really just, there's nothing he cares less about, because that'd take the fun out of it. The Joker wants to fight the Batman. He wants to fight the King of Gotham. He doesn't care who he is behind the cowl, and that is how Bruce knows that the Joker has never been in the Batcave, because the Joker doesn't want to know who he is, doesn't care. And I thought that was really interesting, and added layers to that relationship. But the way it's executed in that moment is fantastic. And I have to say as well, I was reading reviews of this after rereading it, and I read that a few people complained, you know, it's called Death of a Family, but nobody dies, you know, Batman saves the day as he always does, blah blah blah. It's called Death of the Family because that dynamic between the Bat family is forever changed now after this. Essentially, the family is dead to a certain extent. The Joker, as I said earlier, spent however much time whispering into all their ears, turning them against each other. The idea of that family is forever changed. I'm not saying it's completely gone, but the dynamic between them all, it will never be the same again, and that is why the book to me is called Death of the Family. Maybe I'm reading this the wrong way, but that's to me what it means, is that, you know, the Bat family is forever changed now. It's not the family it once was because of the Joker. He's essentially changed the playing field for all those characters, and that's why it's called Death of the Family. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, but that's how I read it. So essentially the arc itself I thought was great. I loved it. I loved every minute. I loved the approach of the Joker. He's a lot more sort of evil, sinister and angry. There's an undercurrent of anger to everything the Joker does in this. The imagery is very sort of horror movie-esque. It deepens a relationship between Batman and the Joker, and also Batman and the Bat family. You also get, you know, flashbacks as well, and the artwork in the epilogues by Jock is fantastic. The artwork in the main story by Capullo is great. It's a fantastic arc, and like I said, it's only half the length, maybe less than half the length of the Court of Owls, but it stands up as being, you know, just as good. And following this, they started, there were 3 issues in between this run and 0 Year, or this arc rather, and 0 Year, which I've already reviewed the first few issues of. I believe issues 18, 19 and 20. 18 being another of the best issues that I think Scott Snyder's ever written. So I'll be reviewing those as well. So this has been Death of the Family. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments below. Try to avoid major spoilers. I know that I've sort of spoiled bits and pieces of it, and I apologise, but it's a difficult arc to talk about without spoiling elements of it. I loved it. I'd love to know what you guys think, and I'll see you in the next video.